All right, and we're on the air. All right, let's get this started. Tech Twice Weekly, episode number 4. Hey, everybody out there, welcome to Tech Twice Weekly. My name is Ben White, and this is a new podcast bringing you technology news headlines and discussion of the big topics twice a week. So, this is our 4th episode, and it's already time to bring you some show news. Nothing serious, but the showtime will be moving. Right now, we've been broadcasting on Sundays and Wednesdays, and due to some personal conflicts, just some time conflicts, we're going to be moving the show. The show will now be found on Mondays and Thursday evenings. Look for us to pop online around 8 p.m. on Monday and Thursday. Same place, techtwiceweekly.com. Nothing's changing there. Just changing date. Even the time's going to stay the same. So just changing show nights. Had some personal scheduling conflicts I needed to address, and that's going to do it. So, with that business news out of the way, I don't have any guests joining me tonight, so let's get right into the headlines. Starting things off with some Netflix news, GigaOM shares the news that Netflix has reached an agreement with AT&T, I bet you thought I was going to say Verizon, to improve its service speeds on the carrier. Netflix has officially signed an interconnection agreement with AT&T, which makes AT&T the third major carrier being paid by Netflix for peering. According to Mashable, this agreement is something the two companies have been working on since May of last year. Can't wait to get your hands on the new iPhone 6? No, you didn't miss the big announcement, but GSM Arena tells us that you can pre-order the unofficial device from the luxury accessory company Brick for the low, low price of $4,495. You can pre-order the plated iPhone 6 or splurge and drop $8,395 on a version with the Apple logo in diamonds. Brick is asking for a $500 deposit to officially pre-order the unannounced iPhone 6 and are claiming it will come with a 4.7-inch display and 128 gigabytes of onboard memory. Personally, I look forward to seeing how this all works out for them. Assuming Apple actually releases the iPhone 6 around September as usual, I'm not holding my breath, and I'm probably going to stick to Android. It's all right. I played with an iPhone. I'm not just a hater, but I prefer Android. Love 3D printed things? Who doesn't? Still, can't quite afford or justify buying your own 3D printer? Amazon wants to help. CNN is reporting on news that Amazon has launched a new 3D printing store within Amazon.com. Currently, the new marketplace stocks over 200 products, including toys, accessories, and 3D printer parts, many of which can be customized when ordered. To fulfill orders, Amazon has partnered with several 3D printing production firms, including both 3DLT and Mixing Labs. Read Write covers reports of Google possibly working with the now Lenovo-owned Motorola to develop the Nexus phablet. Last month, Google's David Burke stopped the rumors that the Nexus line of Android devices would be ending, and now new reports are indicating that the next Nexus device may be a phablet. The investigation by Android police, it appears that inside the code base for the Android open source project is a reference to a 5.9-inch device codenamed Shamu. A 5.9-inch device would be incredibly large, beating Samsung's Galaxy Note 3, which sits at 5.7 inches. Also, the codename Shamu does fit with Google's history of naming Nexus devices after fish, giving some credibility to the theory. With a little sadness, I should say with very little sadness, I bring you CNET's report that Facebook is closing the doors on its Facebook Gifts marketplace. Back in August of last year, Facebook began scaling back the Facebook Gifts service by limiting gift choices to only gift cards, and the service had only been live for barely a year. With this announcement, it is clear that the gift card sales simply weren't selling either. The Facebook Gift service will be officially closed on August 12th, but Facebook has said that previously purchased gift cards can still be redeemed even after the service is closed. Digital Trends brings us the news on EA's announcement of the Xbox One subscription service called EA Access. Priced at $5 a month or $30 for a year, it will offer gamers access to a large collection of EA titles. While currently in beta, EA has made it clear that they plan to regularly add new content to the service over time. Currently, beta subscribers will be able to play Battlefield 4, FIFA 2014, Madden NFL 25, and Peggle 2. As an added bonus, EA is offering subscribers a 10% discount on all EA digital purchases made on the Xbox One console through their service. This includes DLC and other in-game upgrades. Right now, beta subscriptions must be purchased through EA's website directly, but they do plan to offer subscription cards at GameStop and on Amazon. According to 9to5Mac, Amazon is developing their own competitor to Square, the mobile payment service and dongle. Internal Staples documents obtained by 9to5Mac appear to indicate that Staples stores will begin carrying an Amazon card reader sometime in August. The expectedly small device is shown at being priced at $9.99. This news, in connection with the recent Amazon Wallet app quietly being released last week, makes it easy to assume that these two things will work together as a service. However, the big unanswered question is if Amazon can offer rates to attract merchants away from Square's or PayPal's payment processing service and dongle. Last headline today: drones are a big deal lately, and they're popping up in the news all the time. That being said, I was still caught off guard when I saw Martha Stewart and drone show up in the same news story on The Verge. It turns out that, like so many others, Martha Stewart is human and enjoys flying unmanned aerial vehicles around when she has a chance. She recently wrote an extended piece in Time magazine telling a story about how she got into drones and her appreciation of them. She has expressed strong admiration for what drones allow us to do, and while still, I'm sorry, let me start over here. Martha Stewart has expressed a strong admiration for what drones allow us to do and see while still on the ground, and she can frequently be found flying either her Parrot AR 2.0 drone or a DJI Phantom around her own farmland. And those are our headlines. So, that headlines being covered there. There's no guest this week, like I said, or today. So, just a couple of these topics I wanted to go a little further in depth with. And to start with, the first one I want to talk about is the pre-order iPhone 6 through Brick. I think this is a fascinating story, especially because it's a third-party company offering a product from another company that isn't even announced. Now, of course, there's no way to know how many people have bought in on such a high-end luxury device, but I suppose if you're the sort of person who doesn't bat an eye at dropping five to almost $8,500 on a cell phone, then maybe perhaps risking the fact that with a $500 deposit, you may not get anything, or you may at least not get the phone that's actually being advertised, is something you're okay with. For me personally, I I had to work pretty hard to be comfortable dropping the cash outright when I bought my Nexus 5 phone. I can't even imagine considering to spend that kind of money on a simple cell phone. I mean, you can buy decent cars for that much money. So I certainly won't be partaking, but I am really curious to hear the story play out, especially to see if they're able to continue taking these pre-orders all the way through until the phone is actually announced. Because it's entirely possible that Amazon's lawyers are going to knock on the Brick office door and shut this whole thing down. That wouldn't surprise me in the least. The other story I thought was interesting is the idea of Google now working with Lenovo-owned Motorola to develop a Nexus phablet. Now, Google working with Motorola was always something that everyone expected to happen. Especially once Google bought Motorola, it just seemed illogical for them to begin releasing Nexus line devices through the cell phone manufacturer, but it never really happened. And part of that, of course, was Google's commitment to not give favoritism to Motorola. But now that Motorola has been sold off to Lenovo, Google can actually work with Motorola with no strings attached. They are just simply another company they've partnered with, much like they've done with LG in the past. So, given that they don't have any of the hang-up obligations that they formerly had owning Motorola, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what sort of device they make. Now, coming up with a phablet is an interesting idea. I hope it is that it's not the only Nexus device to come out next. I'm really hoping we see an actual traditional Nexus phone, a Nexus 6, come out in the marketplace this fall. A Nexus tablet would be fun. A phablet has its place, especially if I could pair a Bluetooth earpiece to it, so I'm not actually holding a giant phone to my ear. But realistically, it all comes down to what features get packed into it. I mean, by being a Nexus device, it definitely is going to come in higher on my favoritism scale compared to other devices, especially since it will have less branding. It's going to not have bloatware. It's going to be a clean Android experience. And if tradition holds true, it's going to be one of the first devices to receive the newest Google updates when they're available, which for me is one of the biggest selling points for the Nexus series overall. The other thing I think is curious about this story is that none of the news outlets covering it have any mention of Google Silver, the project originally rumored to be replacing the Nexus series of phones. And ever since the rumors of the Nexus line of phones being discontinued was silenced, there really hasn't been a lot of Google Silver news at all, which makes me wonder what has become of the project, or if perhaps Google Silver was a code name for a project all on its own. But I guess we'll just have to wait to see what comes out for the Nexus series, because as time goes on, Google seems to be getting better and better at keeping secrets like this under wraps. In a way, they're almost the new Apple. And actually, looking at the last several Apple releases, they're doing a better job of keeping secrets than Apple has been lately. There's been very few surprises with the last several Apple hardware announcements. And the last story I really want to expand on here this evening is the story about Martha Stewart and flying drones. I think this is just a great story, and especially to hear that Martha Stewart not only is an advocate of hobbyist drone flying, but also enjoys doing it herself. I think it really helps bring drones a lot more mainstream, and I hope that this can show a lot of people who might not normally be in the technology circle with drones to, look into them, to become curious about them, with Martha Stewart, I guess, rubber stamping it, making it okay to fly drones, okay to get into a hobby that's usually full of nerds and geeks, and it seems really technical on the outside. But actually, with many of the innovations and the technology getting built into the drone products lately, really is very simple, very safe, and really fun to get into. I think if we could start getting middle-aged housewives flying drones everywhere, that could be the start of a big change in our society with the thinking about drones. I mean, imagine if the petitions to the FAA to make rules about drone flight not just came from the hobbyist community, but came from thousands and thousands of suburban housewives and families that had these drones they wanted to fly around in their neighborhood. It I realize it's a long shot. I realize that this is kind of just a little hype piece that somebody thought was clever when they stumbled upon a little fact. But I like anything that helps bring drones to the mainstream without being scary, without shock value, without trying to explain why something about drones needs to be restricted or problems that they're causing. I think having someone who's such a big celebrity like Martha Stewart join the drone movement for support and enjoyment of the hobby is nothing but good news. All right. Well, I've gone ahead and rambled on long enough this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Please check us out at techtwiceweekly.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Google Plus. We are just recently got the site up on Twitter, so you can follow us there. I'm going to begin posting regular announcements every time the show goes live if you'd like to join us. Otherwise, we've got the podcast available at the website. You can subscribe and download these episodes whenever you like. We are also in iTunes, so if you need to catch us there, you're gonna find us. So all set up in all the right places. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for listening and have a great night. I will be back with the next batch of headlines Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Have a great night, everybody. All right. Have a good night, YouTube.